All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're looking at the fast changing digital landscape of 2026. If you've been watching the metrics, you already know social media isn't just a side gig anymore, right? It is the absolute core of business growth, search, and culture. We are operating in an era of unprecedented digital transformation, and the strategies that worked even just a year ago are rapidly becoming obsolete. So grab your notebooks because we're going to break down exactly what's happening and how you can stay ahead of the curve.
To make sense of all this prediction data out there, I've broken this explainer down into 6 key pillars: the new social landscape, AI versus authenticity, video evolution, the rise of social SEO, social commerce, and finally, future proofing your strategy. So let's establish the stakes right off the bat. Check out this number from the latest industry reports. The old performance marketing playbook? Yeah, it's just not cutting it anymore. A whopping 85% of social media marketers now recognize that social is vastly more important for brand building than traditional performance marketing. Brands are shifting massive budgets, paying creators 6 figures, and putting social media squarely at the center of their loop marketing strategy. That means social media now drives the entire customer journey, from that very first impression to final purchase and retention. I mean, if you aren't prioritizing brand awareness through social right now, you're practically invisible. Okay, pillar number 1, the new social landscape. Let's look at the invisible forces that are totally changing how content gets delivered to users at scale. Now, the paradox of scale here is super fascinating. Ever wonder how feeds are getting just impossibly good at knowing what you want? It's all about graph neural networks, or GNNs. Basically, researchers are developing AI models that don't just look at what you click. They act like a giant digital brain, connecting the dots between massive webs of users and items. They're mathematically mixing your strong and weak social ties, which means algorithms are hyper-personalizing what you see faster and way more accurately than we've ever seen before. And this maps it out perfectly. By jointly capturing your interactions and your underlying opinions on specific things, like, say, a pair of jeans, the framework coherently models everything you do. It literally proves that the algorithms know exactly what we want to consume before we even realize we want to search for it. Wild, right? Which brings us to section 2, AI versus authenticity. This is a massive tension point for brands right now, the battle between leveraging incredible technological efficiency and maintaining a true human connection. Just look at this staggering adoption rate, 94%. That is 94% of social media marketers using AI in their workflows right now. That's a massive 32% jump year over year. We're talking about using AI for everything from ideation and predictive analytics to auto-editing videos and generating scripts, the whole shebang. The drive for absolute scale and efficiency is totally dominating the back end of marketing. But there's a dangerous tipping point here. As you can see, on one side, sure, you have the sheer speed and predictive power of generative AI, but on the other, the human touch. Inside jokes, brand lore, radical authenticity. You have to balance these two forces super carefully. The very real danger of over-relying on AI is that you end up producing what industry folks are calling AI slop, just bland, cookie-cutter stuff that actively pushes your audience away. In a world completely saturated with automation, human authenticity is what actually wins, every single time. Actually, this quote from Tamika Basel perfectly captures the current consumer sentiment. Audiences can absolutely feel when something wasn't made by a real person. In fact, data shows 46% of social media users are totally uncomfortable with things like AI influencers. They want real people and real experiences. A prime example of getting this right: Square's See You in the Neighborhood YouTube series. No robotic corporate ads there. They spotlight real, local entrepreneurs, leaning into community-driven narratives that build genuine trust. So how do we actually deliver that human connection at scale? Let's get into section 3, video evolution and serialization. The big takeaway here is that video is becoming super episodic and highly tailored to platform behaviors. Short form is obviously still king, but look at the huge resurgence of long form. Instagram Reels can be up to 20 minutes now, and YouTube Shorts just hit 3 minutes. Passive viewing is kind of out. Interactive shorts with in-video polls are in. We're seeing brands absolutely crush it with bingeable, unpolished series like Shameless Media's office-style mockumentary. Or look at indie musician Sophia James. Her totally raw Group 7 TikTok literally hacked the algorithm by giving viewers a shared identity, pulling in 84 million views. It wasn't polished, it just made people feel like they actually belonged. The reality is, the digital platforms of 2026 demand that brands treat their audience like an interactive community. It's not about just shouting a message into the void anymore. It's about giving your audience recognizable characters, inside jokes, and a sense of shared identity, instead of just running on the hamster wheel chasing fleeting viral trends.
All right, moving on to section 4, the rise of social SEO. Let's look at how users' search behavior is fundamentally shifting today.
These numbers hit incredibly hard. 1 in 3 general consumers are skipping traditional search engines completely, starting their product research directly on social platforms. And when you look at Gen Z, over 50% are bypassing Google. They're going straight to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for how-tos, product demos, and authentic reviews. So if you're only optimizing your website for search, you are literally missing half of your future buyers. And because of this massive shift, we're seeing the rise of social indexing. Google is now aggressively integrating TikToks, Reels, and Shorts directly into traditional search results. They're using AI to interpret your video's visual context, the on-screen text, and even your audio narration. What this means for you is mastering answer engine optimization, or AEO. You've got to make sure your short-form videos use highly relevant keywords in the captions and within the very first few seconds of the audio, so they can actually get indexed globally. And hey, when users find your content through that highly optimized search, they're increasingly buying it right then and there in the app. Which brings us to section 5, social commerce dominates. Just let this jaw-dropping number sink in for a second. 407%. That represents TikTok Shop's massive US sales growth in just 2024 alone. It is on track to hit $15.82 billion this year. They've done this by brilliantly blending shopping with entertainment, essentially turning the platform into this hyper-effective discovery and recommendation engine that is completely rewriting retail economics. Zooming out to the broader US social commerce market, it's worth over $87 billion now. Facebook and Instagram still hold a big chunk of the pie, sure, but TikTok Shop already commands an impressive 18.2%, and it is growing incredibly fast. By 2026, the data points to 1 in 2 social media shoppers making a purchase on TikTok, driven heavily by impulse buys in categories like health, beauty, and fashion. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here: graph algorithms, the tension of AI, episodic video, social SEO, and commerce. So how do we bring this all together into a winning formula? Let's look at section 6, future-proofing your strategy. Your ultimate playbook for 2026 really boils down to 3 distinct steps. Step 1, absolutely use the incredible scale of generative AI and social SEO, but keep them strictly for the mechanics of content discovery and speeding up your workflow. Step 2, once people find you, lean into deeply human storytelling. Build those serialized, unpolished video series to actually foster emotional resonance. And step 3, cultivate proactive community management. Step away from the massively saturated feeds and build true loyalty in smaller, more intimate spaces where your most dedicated fans actually feel seen and heard. I want to leave you with a pretty provocative thought to challenge how you operate from here on out. If your brand disappeared from social media tomorrow, would anyone actually notice? The extreme saturation of the digital landscape right now is a signal. It's not a signal to get louder or to just churn out more automated slop. It is a signal to get vastly more intentional with your digital presence. Build a community, not just a following. All right, that wraps up our explainer on the future of social media marketing. Now, go create moments that actually matter.